I am Marwan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. All right, y'all. It is Sunday, September 12th. As you can see, I'm still going through. Feeling a little bit better, feeling a little bit worse. Is what it is, but I'm still on this side. So, couldn't do a show yesterday, but I needed to do a show yesterday. Um, but before I get into the show, um, talk with some folks, saw a few pictures from the 9/11 SOS event. Looked like it was a good event. A lot of folks came out to give honor to and pay their respects for the 20th anniversary of 9/11, which was good. So happy that we could be a part of trying to help promote that, support that effort. Shout out to Martitha and Akuye for all their work. 6th anniversary of putting that event on. It's a lot of work to pull that stuff together. It's a lot of work. And 6 years in, that's phenomenal for sure. So, I wish I could have been there, but of course, when you are actively in the middle of a COVID event, you just can't go out there and expose folks. So, it's unfortunate. I wish I could have been there. But that said, thank you for that, Rob. Yesterday was my brother's Ascension Day, and normally I would have recognized that on the day, but I was considerably worse yesterday, so I don't think I could have made it through a whole podcast, just coughing and hacking. So I put it off until today. My brother Thomas Cameron, one of my older brothers, Christmas Eve is his birthday. He's 3 years older than I am. So he would be 51 this year, come Christmas Eve. But unfortunately, he passed away on 9/11 in 2019. So this is his second anniversary. And just kind of show a few pictures of my brother here. This is when he was a lot younger. Those buck teeth that we all have, right? Man, I'm assuming that must be the 70s because that collar is just not popping. You know what I'm saying? Button all the way to the top with the flower pattern. That might actually be hot today, but got that curly hair. This is Thomas with the judge. I think those are like the guardian ad litems. He's getting ready to, I believe, be adopted into the Cameron family. That's me and Tom at my brother Jared's. I think this is his adoption party. Jared, shout out to him. He lives in D.C. With his wife and 2 lovely children. Yeah, he and I are the same age, born about a month and a half apart. And that's me and Tom there. What's so interesting is you'll see him, older pictures of him. You can already see how muscular he is even as a little kid, He just had this natural muscle and strength about him. Didn't lift weights either. That is my brother Jared that I was talking about with Tom. Tom definitely was a jokester for sure. do apologize for the coughing and the clearing of my throat, but it is what it is. Oh man. So, it's interesting. I don't even remember. This is a picture of Tom. Like I said, he just had this natural physique about him. Definitely proud of his body and his hair. The Black Fabio. Oh, for sure. Uh, there's Tom too. One thing about Tom is he was extremely ticklish. So he is super strong. He's like way stronger than I was. So the only way to beat Tom was to tickle him. So if he had you in a chokehold or any kind of submission hold, you had to tickle Tom to get him off of you. It worked, but man, he was strong and he was fast. He was a cross country runner in school, and he just had this. He was fast and he was tireless. He can run distance and he can run quick. This is Tom. Uh, Definitely would say he's the black sheep of the family for sure. Tom loved material things for sure. He was definitely a collector. Also, I think he had genius level intellect. This is, I think Tom had just got out of prison and I went to go see him somewhere. I don't remember where we were. He had this huge, crazy beard, you know. Um, I didn't know what year that was, but it was good to see him. I remember, I think the longest time he had done is like 12 or 13 years he was down. And he got out, and there's cell phones, and there's oh, the one time he went in, there were like the Motorola flip phones, right? Because he actually used to chip them and sell them. And I was so crazy about that story is I'd ride around with him and we'd ride downtown Seattle and sell these cloned phones for 150 to $200 a pop. And they're only on for like 30 days to, high level businessmen in downtown Seattle. I mean, people that were clearly making over six figures and more. And they were buying these, chip phones that were only good for 30 days. So it was just so interesting. One thing about Tom is he could talk to anyone, and I mean from across any spectrum, and he was just interested in people. So something really interesting about him. Like I said, he was the black sheep of the family. So of course he had to get a picture. If Instagram was a thing, this is way pre Instagram, but this is definitely something you would see today in an Instagram or TikTok or whatever. He definitely was built for this era for sure. But this was probably, I don't know, easily 10, 15 years ago, I would think. He's got his bulletproof vest on, and yeah, Tom was something else. He loved cars. Some of his friends here, I don't know if that's a Dodge Viper or what it is. He's owned some pretty expensive cars over his lifetime. uh, Typhoons, just like crazy vehicles. You know, I told you that I only went to the ninth grade, and so I attempted to go to Roosevelt High School, and I was living with my foster mother at the time, and my brother had a silver Peugeot. In the back seat, you couldn't sit in it because he had built this big speaker box, and I think he had 18s or 20s in the back seat. And the bass was so loud it would literally take your breath away when the bass would hit. And so it was a manual. And so my foster mother, she went to Roosevelt. She's like, well, you know what? You go to my school. So she didn't tell me exactly what I needed to do. you know, Shout out to Faye, the Matthews family. Uh, so I would go up and I would just sit in the administrative office every day for like 2 weeks trying to figure it out, right? And so my brother's like, "Yeah, I'll come and hang out. I'm not in school, I'm kind of doing my thing. I'm in my element." And so he would come and turn his music on as loud as he could during first and second period of class. And the kids are looking out the window and seeing my brother out there, right? So he would have been, either a senior or just his first year out of high school this time. He probably would have been a senior. And I think in the second week, he's out there and the police come and they end up taking him to jail, right? I mean, he's causing a disturbance. I don't know if he's got a warrant or whatever. So they come, they take him to jail. So now I'm here with this silver Peugeot and I don't know how to drive a stick. And I'm all the way in Northgate, um, over by UW, right? Wherever Roosevelt High School is. And we live in Rainier Beach. So I've got to drive this stick shift all the way back. So, I burnt the hell out of the gears trying to get that car home. But I'm still bumping all along, boom, boom, boom. Hey, Jesse. Um, and I burnt the hell out of the clutch on that car. And he says that car was an Audi R8. He was really impressed when I took him for a ride in it. I appreciate that. Yeah, Jesse's in that picture there. One of Tom's really good friends. It's good to hear from you. Talked to his other buddies and his mom yesterday, and they're thinking about Thomas too. Uh, but yeah, he loved cars, man. And so anyway, the crazy story is so now I'm driving my brother's car, and I've got this thing. And as I said, he was a very, colorful individual and he knew all these people. So I'm at his girlfriend's house, who was my best friend, and 30 Crips come to the house. They've got guns and they're looking for my brother. Well, I don't, at that point in my life, that's probably the most scared that I've ever been because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I open up the door, they know the car, they want my brother. My brother, he's not here, he's in jail, right? So they took the car. And it's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't beat 30 Crips with guns. And, I mean, at the time, what was I? Ninth grade, 10th grade. I'm either 15 or 16 years old. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, take it. So Tom gets out, right? Now, this is my brother. He finds his car. The only thing that's wrong with it is the driver's side window was broken because I don't know why they broke the window, but the driver's side window was broken. My brother made me pay to fix that window. Now, that's a crazy story, right? So he's bumping the car at my school. He goes to jail. I take the car home. Crips come and take the car. The window's broken. He gets it back, and I got to pay $400 to fix the car. So, yeah, it's so crazy, man. It's so crazy. But that was, I mean, those are just kind of the stories that, me and Tom would get into the craziest shenanigans uh, in our younger years. I remember, I'm afraid of fireworks. And so Tom, like I said, I really believe that he had a genius level intellect. If they ever measured his intelligence, I think it would be really, really up there. I mean, he was not classically trained, but he had an engineering mindset. He could build things. His vision on how things work. He could pull things apart. I mean, he would take boom boxes in the 80s and put amplifiers on top of it and a whole bunch of extra um batteries in it to make it run. I mean he would just do all these really crazy things. Jesse says, I remember hearing that Peugeot story so many times. Never knew that's when you learned how to drive a stick. Yeah. Um, so he told you that story? That's so funny. He what's so interesting is there's so many different ways that he's kind of tied to some really big events in my life. But anyway, like I was saying, I was made me afraid of fireworks. He would take fireworks apart and make different fireworks. So he'd put all the extra gunpowder together and do all this other stuff. So he took one of those things called Roman candles, and he uh modified it somehow. I don't know. And kids shoot each other with Roman candles, whatever, but he found some kind of way where I don't know, it hit me and it caught my pant leg on fire. I didn't burn, but after that I was like, I'm good with fireworks. So that's why I don't like fireworks. Um and he just got a kick off of stuff like that. Yeah, it just says he was one of the naturally smart people I knew. He could figure anything out. Yeah, he and he would pull stuff apart because he needed to understand how it worked. That was his mind. It wasn't good enough for just accepting a thing for what it was. It was like, no, I want to know how it works. And then oftentimes he'd build it and build it better than the original intent for it. So anyway, he after that event happened, he ended up giving me this gold watch, and it was from the maker Longines. And I've never been able to uh, find that maker. And I love that gold watch, and the band on it was very unique. It was a smooth gold band, kind of like a herringbone weave, but not one that gets kind of crinkled when you aren't careful with it. Jesse says, I remember the sound system Vessi built with those speakers and batteries. So cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, just like crazy stuff. And I think they actually now they were selling something like that, right? Some high-end vest or North Face jackets with speakers with the earbuds built into it or something like that. I don't know. Or there's like solar things in the pads. I mean, he would do things like that, you know, decades before anyone would even consider trying something like that. So, but he bought me this watch, and it was my favorite watch. Nothing else was like it. And so this is during the era of like Black Hills gold, that nugget kind of gold, and um, I mean that was cool, for its time. But this was a unique thing. I never heard of long jeans, and nobody else had it, so it was really cool. And that watch ended up saving my life. And so they say statistically, a black man may not make it to see his 21st birthday, and that was me. So I was at a house party playing dominoes. It's like 1:30 in the morning. I'm out in the Rainier Beach area, out at Stock Market. I think before it was Stock Market, it was like Big Bear. So we're talking about way back here on Rainier and Henderson. And I leave, right? And this is back, you know, cell phone era. So this is the 90s. I think this was 1991, actually. Would I have been 21 in 91? Whenever it was, whatever the math is, that works out for that. And, I stop at a payphone. I call my girlfriend, I want to go over and see if she's still up. I want to come and hang out with her. Get off the phone, and I'm just gonna go. I don't know where I was gonna go. I think I was just gonna go to my foster mother's home. Um, and my brother wasn't living there. So interesting about my brother. So when I left home and I went back into foster care, me and Tom had already left, and like I said, he was dating my best friend who lived on the next block over, 2 blocks over from the family house. So we weren't exactly super far away. Um, but then I ended up in a foster home, which was ironically still really close to where the girlfriend's parents lived. And so, the uh, my best friend let Tom stay and live with them for a little while. And then when I left my foster mother's house, he had created such a relationship with my foster mother that he was able to move in with Faye and David and Fran. And it was so interesting that, that relationship was able to be built, and I feel some kind of way about, the foster care system and the fact that, you know, it's really hard to place teenagers, especially teenage black boys that got issues. And so it was one thing for them to take me in. And I have my thoughts on that. No one's perfect, right? But I always felt like it was a money grab. I stayed in a lot of foster homes. I've stayed in a lot of group homes, receiving homes, and I've seen some really bad things. I've stayed with ministers that, they didn't care what I did. You get out early in the morning, you come back in at a certain time, and they don't care what you do during the day. And they get that check every month, and you're not going to see a dime of it go towards you, aside from, giving you your cot, and you don't even get 3 hots. Um, I've lived with roaches and been locked in basements and the state's legally paying for it. And so, I appreciate the fact that the Matthews family took my brother in when they didn't have to, right? The state and took me in, placed me there. So that was a paid relationship that actually grew beyond that. And it grew so far beyond that that they accepted my brother in that way too. So I do appreciate that. And like with all families, there's always drama, but it is what it is. So anyway, uh, I'm walking, and some of the guys I was playing dominoes with were sitting on a car in the parking lot of stock market. So I stop, I talk to them. There's a couple females out there. We're having a conversation like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm like, all right, man, let me get out of here. So I start walking away, and two of them started walking behind me. Well, I'm not thinking anything of it. We just, finished having a conversation, dapped it up, and we're walking away. Uh, so I'm walking away, and next thing I know, I'm falling to the ground, and I'm laying on my stomach, and I'm looking back, and one of the guys hit me in the head with a steel pipe, and I'm just laying there. It's almost 2 in the morning. It's just there's no one out there. It's in the hood, which it wasn't even in the hood for us. I mean, it's just Rainier Beach. It is what it is, right? Uh, and so I'm laying on my stomach, and the guy has my wallet. He's looking through my wallet. I don't really have any money. But you can see the watch, right? And of course I'm playing dominoes with them, so they see the watch. They're gonna get that watch. So my arm is bent back behind me, and they're trying to get the watch off. Well, like I said, it's a Longines, and I've never seen a Longines watch. I know these guys ain't never seen a Longines watch. They have no idea how to get this watch off. So just as a side, I don't know how you feel about the vaccine, but I tell you, if I didn't get vaccinated, I don't know where I'd be right now with this COVID. I mean, I did get my uh I can I can taste again. I still can't smell. So um I'm way better than I was today. But man, the last 4 or 5 days have been just bad. And I mean, this is my second week, so I'm like, all right, is this thing gonna end? Can I start feeling better? At least I'm not, you know, pouring down, sweating. I would tell a joke, but it's inappropriate, especially. Well, I won't even tell you the forming of the joke, but anyway, I'm sweating, and all the sweating jokes that I can tell you right now are all inappropriate. So I'll just leave it there. So he's trying to get the watch off, and he's got a gun. The other guy is literally waving traffic on, like, hey, there's nothing to see here, right? And again, it's like one car driving past every whatever. And I see the gun, I'm like, hey man, kill me, just take what you want. And it's like you've got your fight or flight. And I'm thinking, you know what, these dudes are gonna kill me. Um, I got to do something. So I turn around and I grab the gun, and as I get up, the other guy is running back over. I start shooting. I shoot the guy who was trying to get the watch. By the time I shot him, the other guy comes, he hits me again. I drop the gun and I start running. I'm maybe 5 or 6 feet away, and I hear pop, 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 and I just keep running. And I get to, because we're in the middle of stock market, right on that sidewalk. So I get to the corner of Rainier and Henderson. I keep on running across, right? Uh, by the time I'm halfway to, I can't even think of the street now, the next light over there, there is police that have their lights going, and they're rushing down to the scene. And I'm doing this, and they're just woo, they're going. So I'm running to my foster mother's house. One of my shoes had fallen off. I'm going. I got a mini afro. I get to my mother's house, and back then they had the kind of the black onyx tables with the mirror top. So I'm trying to tell her what happened, and I look in the mirror, and my mini afro is just all red. Right, it looks like a red afro. So the paramedics come, and they start asking me questions. What's the date? Who's the president? Whatever. After that, I started panicking, and I woke up, and it was days later, and I was in the hospital. My friend Rod, he told the story on one of the podcasts we did when he came out to see me, and they had to drill a hole in my skull. I could zoom in and show it to you, but I had a subdural hematoma, and my brain was swelling, and I had seizures, and it was bad, man. And yeah, almost died. And then couldn't identify the dudes. You know what I'm saying? They got one of them because he couldn't leave because I shot him in the hip. But that's what it was. It's like sometimes they say nothing good happens after midnight. Being out, wasn't doing any dirt, was just hanging out, and that's what happened. But I tell that story because if Tom had not given me that watch, I don't think I would have survived, right? Because any other watch, that person would have gotten off, right? If I didn't have a watch at all, then once he went through the wallet and got what he wanted out of there, then the escalation would have started, and I wouldn't have had the time to make the move. So, I credit the fact that Tom gave me that watch based on him making me pay for the window for the car that he went to jail in because he's hanging out at Roosevelt High School with me. So, just kind of a crazy Kevin Bacon story. But yeah, that was Tom. So, like I said, the big things with Tom, I have all these big things that happened in my life. We're growing up at my dad's house, and my dad, being a Baptist minister, 285, 6'3", he believed in whooping that tail, and he whooped that tail. And for Tom, that's me, Tom, and Montez. So when we were growing up, uh, you had the Cameron family, which my dad adopted all these kids, right? And then you had the Cornelius family. And my dad was a single Black Baptist minister who never married. Father John was a father, and of course, fathers don't marry. And he adopted a bunch of kids, right? And so the juxtaposition was we grew up poor and they grew up super wealthy, right? Like the father, they don't pay for their home, and I mean they were well to do, right? They lived in Lake down on the water in Lake Washington. They all drove cars, and Christmas was all crazy and over the top for them. Shout out to you, Montez. I just saw him. He was just in I think he was in Hawaii or somewhere. He's always taking pictures with famous people right now. Montez gets around. This is us meeting at 13 Coins. Uh, so funny. He was showing us his reinflatable tires or something on his car, Jesse. And then he had this crazy ass horn in there, and he's got that thing going off. So we're on Pack Highway at 13 Coins in the parking lot, and that horn, that alarm or whatever, is so loud, it's just bouncing off the buildings. Like, I know everyone in here is just like, what the hell is going on out there? And he's just so funny. He would illegally park. He'd tear ass through the parking lot. And it's like, you don't feel like you're gonna go to jail. You're not gonna get in trouble for that. Tom was just Tom just did what Tom did. But so interesting. We I don't know if Montez met us there twice, but the last two times I saw Tom before he passed uh, was at 13 Coins. Um, so that was kind of our spot. Uh, Now, seeing as he drove 1,000 miles an hour, he could have came out a little bit farther as a halfway point for me coming all the way from Bremerton. I mean, that would have been fair, but it is 13 Coins, and they got that chocolate mousse, so it's all good. Yeah, it was good times. I see I've got on my G2 shirt there, so uh, had some conversations with him. Starting a nonprofit, he used to always tell me, oh, you're the smart one, or you're the goody two shoes. He'd call me the goody two shoes. You're the goody two shoes. You're the good one. You can't. I don't want you to be in that life. I want you to do right. And he would be so disappointed in me if I did anything contrary to that. And I was a knucklehead in my late teens and my 20s. And he hated that. He wanted me to be um, the good one. He would tease me about it, but he wanted me to be that. So I appreciate that. You know. Uh, but anyway, so like I said, the most major things kind of in my life kind of happened around Tom. So like I said, dad would whoop us, right? And I hated getting whipped. You could put me on restriction, just don't whip me. You know what I'm saying? 2 weeks, it's cool. Just don't hit me. It's too much. I can't take it. Tom was the opposite. Hit me. I don't care. I'm good. I can take it. Just don't put me on punishment. I can't be on lockdown. So, Pops knew how to punish you, right? He knew what the punishment was. Now, sometimes you got both. You got beat and you got put on restriction, you know. But we both had our what we wanted. So we did something. I can't remember what it was, and we might have scared our baby sister. So this could be what happened. I don't remember what the catalyst was to get us to run away. But back in the tape era, right? You can undo the tape and it's all balled up. It kind of looks like a spider to a little girl, right? So Tom, of course, being a jokester, let's scare the sister. So he scares the crap out of Renita. And she's crying. Dad comes home. I remember he's beating me on the stairs. He's just beating us up the stairs, right? Go take a shower. So takes a shower. And one of us comes in and dad's bed is pristinely made and his big ass leather belt is just in the center of the bed. Yep, we're gonna catch a beating for this one. And yeah, we scared the crap out of Renita. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. Man, we should run away. So we ran away. um I tell you, man, Tom would get me into some stuff. So we run away. We're on the run. Now, we then stayed with some friends, and my dad knew a lot of folks, so he would threaten, folks like, "Hey, you better not be holding my sons, and bailing them out, right? Those are my kids." So, uh, yeah, he could never sit still. Uh, so one summer he got put on restriction, Jesse, and so our house was the neighborhood house. We had a basketball uh hoop in our driveway, and so all the kids would come to our house because I mean there were so many of us. And so Tom got in trouble, and our bedrooms were right next to each other, and it looked out over the garage. where the basketball court was. My room was all blue. I had this like blue shag carpet. The walls were blue, and his was green, right? And so he was on restriction for something, and we play outside, and he would just sit in the window. He hated it. He absolutely hated that. Um, and but he liked the fact that even though he couldn't come out, we would hang out and play. But when we got tired of playing basketball and wanted to go and play in the woods or do something else or go to the store, it was like, all right, the party's leaving, and then he was just stuck. Oh man, he hated that. You could just imagine. So we'd run away. We're staying with friends, the parents. And then, Pops is like, "Yeah, you better not be taking care of my kids. It's going to be a problem." So, they were like, "Sorry, your dad is saying, we can't help you. So you got to go." Like, damn. So we found a little shed um, in the middle of the neighborhood. So, a traditional block we lived in on Bayview in Mount Baker. And it was like, just think of a regular traditional city block. And in the middle of it, there was a shed in the back of someone's house. And we were staying in that shed. We would eat Walla Walla onions raw. And Tom got these candles, and he would put the elbow piece of a gutter over the candle to try to force the heat out like a heater. I mean, it's just now we're talking about, let's see, I was what, maybe 14, so he's probably 17 at the time, 16 if he hadn't had his birthday yet. So, that's just Tom. So we would go and do different things, right? We're just hanging out. We made it a good week, I think. Uh, so now we're gonna go to the house before Dad gets home from work because he's teaching as a school teacher. We know some of our brothers and sisters will get home before he does. Let us in. Let's get some food, whatever, right? I don't know. Someone had to have snitched. That's the only thing I can think. So my dad had like this magic, he just knew where you were, you know. So I guess someone snitched or something happened, and we were leaving out of the house, and we're just walking down the street, and here he comes, right? We look back, and it's like, oh shit, and we're going right now. Remember, I told you Tom was fast, and he was cross country. Tom had a half block on me in probably 4 or 5 seconds, and I didn't look like this. I was skinnier than Tom was back then. Uh, Tom left me. It was definitely every man for himself, and he was gone. Right. So I ended up stepping on a nail, and my dad ended up taking me to the hospital. So I got tetanus, and then we ended up back home. Back home. So oh no, wait, did I end up back home? Oh, that might have been one time that we ran away. Next time we ran away, and I only ran away with Tom, right? Never ran away with anyone else. Tom would get me into the most crazy shenanigans. So we run away the second time. I think we're staying with his girlfriend, right? Which was my best friend. So we're staying there. And so, it's Sunday, and we're feeling like, everyone loves my dad. He's just, Mr. Reverend Cameron. He can't do no wrong. He's a school teacher, he's a minister. The church loves him, the school loves him. He teaches at all these different schools over the course of his career. So everyone loves this guy. He's horrible, right? You're a kid, you're a teenager. All right, well, let's go and slash his tires and cut the car up. This is Tom, right? Again, shenanigans. So we get on a bus from Rainier Beach, take the 7, we go all the way to the CD to Mount Zion. And back in the day, I'm playing gangbanger. So I got on my blue uh, rag, I got on my blue hat, I got my blue button-up shirt with my blue jeans. And so we get off the bus, and Tom gives me a broken butcher knife, like broken in half. And he says, all right, I got a knife, you got a knife. Let's go and slash the tires, cut up the seats in the station wagon. All right. We're walking. We're walking. Well, he is my older brother, right? Again, I'm 14. He is my older brother. So, and he wants to go and cut the tires and cut the car seats up, right? No, I got one better. I'm going to show you, big brother. Let's do this. So we go into church. Now, this is the biggest black church in, I'm pretty sure, Washington State, right? Like Reverend McKinney at the time marched with King. Um, I mean, this is a big church. We walk into the foyer. My grandmother comes out. She's going to the bathroom. She literally walks past me and doesn't even know who I am. So I go into the church. My dad's upstairs in the balcony. Now, they broadcast the church service and way back then. And so you walk up the stairs to the balcony. The first door on the left is the radio station or the studio. And he's sitting literally like on the second, you know, a pew on the balcony. So there's the fam is all there. So I tap him on the shoulder. Next time I see you, I'm gonna kill you. Right? Got on my blue rag, my blue ball cap, my black sunglasses. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking like Snoop Dogg, just as skinny back then. And so I walk away, right? Like, yeah, I showed him, right? I've embarrassed him in front of, all these people that think that my dad is just so great. I get to the top of the stairs and this hand comes on my shoulder and just clamps down on me, big ass bear paw. And he turns me around. And remember I told you, about the gang members on the porch and being scared? Yeah, no, that was nothing. I was terrified. That knife came up, Jason Voorhees. And he gave me a broken and a half butcher knife. I mean, it really didn't do much to my dad. But I did stab him in the chest like 3 times. So I'm falling down the stairs of the balcony. I'm rolling down. My hat comes off. My sunglasses fall off. And I walk into the foyer, and the Secret Service at the church, the men tackle me, right? I don't even make it outside the church. And I wasn't trying to run. I was just walking. There's a roundabout in front of the church where you could drop people off and go and park. So now I'm in the back of the police car. Church is over now. Sweat's pouring down my face. Everyone's walking past. So it's the opposite effect, right? I'm trying to embarrass him, but I'm the jackass, right? My he's fine, you know. So I go to kiddie prison. I got to go to Echo Glen. And that's how I ended up not part of the Cameron family anymore. I was 14. I didn't talk to my dad for 10 years, from when I was 14 until I was 24. And I think a lot of you kind of know some of that story behind that. But I will tell it again on another day, but that's not the point today. But like I said, Tom was the reason for like some of the biggest events that have happened in my life. That put me back into the foster care system and put me on my path. Um, I was in gifted courses. I was in, like it was called Horizon. And so this was back when open concept classrooms were just, theoretical or just coming online. Um, so I guess the best way to think about it is like think about AP classes for grade school, right? I went to Montessori and, this and that. So my path was a very different path, right? And so because I wanted to show out for my brother and then got terrified to death because I, tried to show out, it changed my entire life. And it put me on a whole different pathway I mean, really for the rest of my life. I don't know what my life would have been had that not had happened. I probably would have Graduated high school. My dad went to Morehouse, so I probably would have went to an HBCU, um, and I would be doing, whatever. My life would have probably, you know, went from there. However, I'm glad that everything played out the way that it did, and I am the person that I am today. I don't think that that person would have been a bad person. I just don't think that I would have. I don't think I would have the heart and the spirit that I have now to try to help people and make a difference in people's lives if I hadn't gone through staying in the really bad foster homes, watching one of my 14-year-old foster brothers, get shot in the head and on Yesler and dying, um, you know, getting treated the way that I was treated in bad places, in foster homes and receiving homes and things like that. Watching my brother go through the things that he went through, during that 10 years. I mean, it was pretty much at that point, we were both the black sheep. So Tom and Marwan didn't talk to anyone, any of the other Camerons, for a long time. And then I did start talking to Tony. And then when I was 24, I reached back out to my dad, and you know that story. So what's so crazy is at one point in time, Tom and I had the same probation officer, which is really crazy. It's like, man, you're making it really hard on me, man. Uh, yeah, I miss Tom. So many cool stories. So many cool stories. And, if it wasn't because of him, I wouldn't have had those experiences. You know, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So uh, when I do think back on that, what could what would you change if you could change aspects of your life? You know, would you still go through it? Those are the things that I wouldn't change. And as I tell stories as time goes on, I'll share more. But yeah, that was my brother Tom. And if you knew him, he was he would talk fast. He was curious. He was interesting. He was smart. He was funny. He was hilarious. He loved to joke. He was definitely loyal. If you were his friend, you were his friend. There's no ifs and buts about that. He loved material things and he loved the finer things. Tom Tom he had whatever he had, modifications on cars or stereo equipment, whatever it was, he would have just like the most, to me, the most high end type stuff that I've never heard of before. That's not in any catalog that you can see. Tom was the type of you go into that store and if you have to ask the price and you can't afford it, that was Tom to me. And he'd come and show you this and this is that, and he run down all the specs on it, and you're just like eyes are glazed over, like that has no meaning to me. But he's going off and he just loves it, right? And it's super interesting. Uh, and I'm glad that he got a chance to reconnect with dad. They never ever got super close. I remember we bought my dad's house for him after I got married, and we had a barbecue. And Tom came out, and I think he might have been in the Typhoon or he might have been in a Viper. I can't remember. And he would take people out for rides in it. And so Tom was kind of like this, the celebrity family member with these, super fancy cars. And he'd come out and just kind of tell these stories. And my dad being a Baptist minister, we would tell some funny stories, to try to get his goat. And he would just tell these really wild things, about his experiences, and it was so funny. My dad just would just look at him in amazement, like, "Okay, Tom, that's Tom." You know, one thing that is important that I do want to share, and I will put the link down in the bottom. Uh, in 2 years ago when he passed, it was September 11th, and everything was really fast moving. And when you think about it, you know, March, the world shut down because of COVID. And so trying to figure everything out, um, deal with COVID and go through all that stuff, all of a sudden, it's year two and things have kind of opened back up a little bit, but, not all the way. But his passing seemed strange. Uh, my brother was arrested on 9/11 in I guess a sting operation where the police set him up. And within an hour, he was found hanging in the Kent jail. Uh, I did a Freedom of Information Act to try to get the information on that. That's what you're seeing below is a podcast where I actually go through the findings on what they gave me. To me, a lot of it didn't make any sense. My brother, from all accounts, all the people that I spoke to him or spoke to, did not uh, see any indicators that he was talking about. He had any kind of suicidal ideation. Um, he had plans. Things were going fine for him. And I mean, he had a lot of plans. This wasn't, there was no getting his affairs in order or writing letters or doing any of these things. And, my brother has done plenty of years in prison. So and he's also beat the police and the system on several occasions, right? And like I said, he's not a stupid man. And so he's fought the law and the law didn't win. So saying that he was afraid of going back to prison. I don't believe that because he could have bailed out. He would have had an attorney. He definitely would have fought it, right? He had the money to bail out, so this wasn't a thing where he wasn't gonna have no bail, right? This wasn't a violent crime. So he gets arrested and he's in a holding cell, and within 1 hour, he is hanging dead. I put this article up because nationwide, black men are being found hung either in police stations or I'll say in police custody or just outside. And the media doesn't really talk about it. But here's an article here. Did 5 black men found hanging dead from trees die of suicide? Well, if you look at the statistics, black people don't use hanging as their method of killing. Number one is medication. Number two is gun. We don't hang ourselves. A meme surfaced amid international protests following the death of a black man in police custody in Minneapolis. This was published on the 16th of June in 2020. Investigators initially ruled that 5 black men found hanging dead from trees in the days following George Floyd's death on May 25, 2020, died by suicide. What's true in this article, from what they're stating, 3 black men were found dead hanging from trees in the days following George Floyd's death on May 25, 2020. In 2 of those cases, the initial manner of death was ruled a suicide. The manner of death in the 3rd case is pending an investigation, but authorities suspect no foul play. A 4th male, who was Latino, was found dead hanging from a tree. This death was also ruled a suicide. And the family reportedly told authorities he was suicidal. We were unable to find reports about the 5th incident similar to the other 4 cases. Social media posts likely mistook older incident for something recent, such as the death of Titty Gully in 2019, or mistook the recent gun death for a hanging, such as the death of Rayshard Brooks. So, again, no real information on this. Here's another article. And again, we don't hang ourselves. Black men dying by hanging, whether by suicide or murder, are a visceral reminder of America's roots. This is July 13th of 2020. Their bodies were found 50 miles and 10 days apart in Southern California, hanging from trees. Malcolm Harsh, 38, and Robert Fuller, 24, are 2 of at least 4 black men, 1 Hispanic, who died. Now, in some of these stories, here's another story here. Their hands were tied behind their back. They are found hanging at a park. And because they don't see any visible struggle marks, it's a suicide. But the family members are saying, no, he wasn't suicidal. He wouldn't have done that. Orlando police released evidence in death of black man found hanging in a tree. October 13, 2020. This isn't 1919. This isn't the 60s. This isn't the civil rights era. This isn't the 80s. This is ago. Orlando police evidence in death of black man found hanging in a tree. I was walking my dog, and there was a guy in the middle of the park hanging. He's got a rope around his neck. He's hanging right now, the man told responders. Police arrived at 3:45 to discover a 22-year-old hanging from a tree, Navin Baker. They cut him down to try to help him, but he was pronounced dead minutes later. Baker's family does not believe he committed suicide. I was his grandmother and lived with me, and he did not kill himself. He would never come to this park. Nevin's grandmother, Francine James. Orlando police met the Baker family Monday to show them a presentation that goes over their investigation. It included some crime scene pictures, documents, and video it released to the media on Tuesday. So when you look at the podcast that I did where I go over the documentation from the Freedom of Information Act, the pictures were just like really random. They gave me pictures of the police cruiser that they arrested him in or transported him to the holding cell. They took pictures of the trunk. It was like, what? Why would you even take pictures of that? They cut him down. They didn't take pictures while he was still up there, which I get, right? You're trying to save his life. Now, admittedly, they are supposed to check on the holding cell every so often, like every 15 minutes or so. but that wasn't done. And then they said in their report that when they did go to check on him one of the times, he was not responding, but he was in over by the toilet, which doesn't have a camera, so they couldn't see him. But hanging still takes some time, right? This isn't, you don't just die instantly. So when they're calling out to him in the time that they're checking in these intervals, they don't hear anything in the room either, right? They also miraculously, even though they missed checking in on their regular intervals, they can remember all this crazy dialogue that my brother allegedly was saying to them. In the article, the meeting or document have not stopped community organizers from staging demonstrations outside Orlando City, demanding a more detailed investigation. No matter what it was said, we cannot get away with the botching investigation, Lawana Gelzer said. Baker's family has said witnesses said Nevins saw Nevin with bruises, missing teeth, and that his hands were tied, but the crime scene photos prove otherwise. The forensic pictures show no cuts, bruises, or signs of struggle. Even with the footage that was shown to us, we left that room not feeling satisfied, not feeling like we were getting any kind of real answers. Police reports showed that Nevin overdosed on prescription drugs in 2018. He admitted that he was trying to hurt himself. His mother allegedly told police he tried committing suicide again in 2019 by overdosing. And again, we know that most times, it's usually a cry for help when that's happening, right? Like when folks really want to, uh, they are successful. Coincidence here. Winthrop is my dad's name. January of this year, relatives of black men found hanging from tree in Mississippi sue girlfriend's family. Unfortunately, we're having a lot of bandwidth problems this morning, and that can happen. But I want to thank everyone for joining me today for this reflection for my brother Thomas. Um, Folks have suggested that I reach out to some different organizations that may be able to help, and I'll continue to keep you updated on that. To date, that has not been fruitful, but it's important to share this information because clearly there are other families that are experiencing situations that require uh, a closer look and support. So, anyhow, it's 9/11. It's a day to remember what happened on 2001. Earlier this morning, we saw the presentation of the 911 9/11 Sacrifices Service Program that happens every year um, down at Evergreen Park. And I was honored to be selected to speak alongside our local politicians here, and that was a good experience. So check that out. And it is something. It is something. But anyway, as always, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Got a lot going on this week, and we will see you soon. I'm Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit.